don't be stagnant in assuming that you already have your desire. You do probably need to take inspired action. And I'll rephrase that. You don't need to take inspired action. You need to be receptive to inspired action, because it's not gonna feel out of the ordinary. It's gonna feel like maybe just a kind of mundane thing. Every now and then it feels a little important, but my biggest freeze or block that I was having with assuming the desired state was actually being stagnant, because in my mind, for some intangible things, I was not taking any action towards them because I already had it, right? So this doesn't work if we're talking about a car. If I want a new car, then it's pretty logical what tangible steps you need to be taking to have that car, right? You need to maybe trade in your current vehicle, you need to get a loan, you need to look into loans, can I afford the car payment, blah, 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 locate the car. All of that is pretty straightforward, pretty common knowledge. But when you're talking about things that are a little bit more intangible, like maybe some dream job offer that you can't quite conceptualize what it would be, your next place of living, your next vacation, a relationship, those sorts of things are a little bit less tangible, because those are the things that feel like they just fall in our lap. So how are we supposed to not be stagnant in assuming the desired state? I used this phrase to shift my mindset completely. I went from I already have this to I can easily get this. I can easily become the version of me that has this. I can easily be that girl. Try that phrasing and see if it doesn't shift things for you a little bit. I had no idea how stagnant I had become until something happened that just a light bulb moment. Because what I like to do when I feel like my manifestation isn't coming fast enough is I do not turn to YouTube videos or techniques. I don't start scripting. I don't start affirming harder. I kind of do, but not like repetitively. What I do is I switch to this affirmation. Whatever the next step is, whatever the next thing I need is, it will find me easily. And then I trust in that. So this was not something I was able to practice or was not practicing when I did not have confidence and trust and faith in myself. And if you feel like you're struggling with faith in the universe and faith in the universe and what it can deliver to you, then I encourage you to look at the faith that you have within yourself, because you are the universe. So as within, so without. When I had no trust in my world, it was really internal issues, and I needed to be a little bit stronger with my relationship with myself first. And then trusting the universe became so easy. So I don't even really set like affirmations. I just kind of think of whatever the next thing is, or I'll just say like, show me the next thing. I wonder how things can get better. And then I just let it go, because I trust that it will happen. But I do have a couple goals in mind in my life in different areas. And anytime I kind of start to feel that little seed of fear saying, oh my gosh, I wonder if I'm somehow blocking my progress or, becoming stagnant in this, I just set that intention of don't allow that. Higher self, universe, don't allow me to fall into that. Show me the next thing. And then I'm not gonna lie, I even got a little tired after a little bit, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from the next things, because it was happening so fast. I was like, wow, this progress is crazy. Let me take a breather for like a week, and then we can go back to this. So definitely saw great results with that. And that is what I put my faith in, instead of getting super specific and trying to like find the perfect formula for how to fix the problem. I let the perfect formula or the perfect resolution come to me, because honestly, I don't think there were really actual problems other than my belief systems preventing me from just going with the flow and following the path and being open to the path that was in front of me. Because a lot of times I found that the things that I needed, I was pushing away, and I was like, no, I think that I need this. I think that it should be this way. That can't be it. I don't want to do that because I'm scared of this and that. But these things that were presenting themselves to me were meant to be explored. And again, I think that the more I built trust within myself, that became a lot easier to follow that. So I can easily get this. I can easily be the version of me that has this thing. And then you do have to trust that those steps will follow. And if you like to do affirmations daily, then affirm how great you're doing at following the path of events that unfold in the universe's perfect plan, in the divine plan. I really love Florence Scovel. She takes a lot away from like the ego and puts it in God or the universe's hands. And honestly, when I started making videos, I was coming from a very egoic place of thinking that I knew exactly what I needed and what I wanted, and that it had to be that exact person, that exact thing, blah, blah, blah. And it caused me so much unnecessary, like, I guess not unnecessary because I needed to learn the lesson, but suffering and time lost. Until I finally learned that maybe in my miserable state, I did not know what the real best thing for me was. I could just only imagine what to me was the next best thing. But oftentimes the universe already had something that I couldn't even imagine lined up for me. And so I started to notice that pattern, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I do really need to let go. And the more I tried to hold on to things, the more I was learning the lesson that I should not be holding on to them. So if you can relate to that, then I highly suggest letting go, trusting the process, trusting the journey, practicing that detachment of not needing things to happen in the way that you think that they should happen, and just saying, I can easily be the version of me that has this. Now, little story time. So I felt this personally shift for myself. I have been very unhappy with certain aspects of my physical appearance. It wasn't anything super crazy, but I was just noticing like some signs of aging, a little bit more weight in my face that just wasn't normal for me. And it wasn't about the actual aesthetics of it as much as the subconscious realization that I was not in a healthy place for myself and my personal health. And so it wasn't really about the aesthetics, but that was what my conscious mind was fixating on. And so I was stuck in this loop of like just being so unhappy with my appearance and reinforcing that. And then it was like, I saw this old picture of me and everything snapped into place. And I thought, well, I can get back to that version of me somehow, because like even in the picture that I'm talking about, my health wasn't actually as great because I didn't know what my body really needed at that time, but it was still looked better than the way that I was perceiving myself as of late. And once it clicked that this was about my health and not my aesthetics, everything shifted so quickly. I went from struggling to get back onto the diet that I knew that I needed to be on, cutting out the foods that I should not be eating because they are bad for me, having proper sleep, just the whole regimen, the proper supplements that I needed. I went from not being able to commit to those things, like I would do it for a little bit and then I would fall off the wagon, to it was like a night and day thing. I used to have part of the problem was like processed sugars, and it was like the universe was testing me because in my job, people would bring us stuff all the time, and it was always like stuff that's not great for you. And it's fine in moderation, but I have to be responsible with how far I've gotten myself, and so I need to be very strict about these things. And it used to be such a craving, such a problem. And then when I made that mindset shift of I can easily become that version of me again, it was like the dedication to that just kicked in. And people brought like donuts and cookies in the same day, and I didn't even look twice at them. There was no craving that I had to like overcome. It just was like a switch flipped in my head. And then I started working out a little bit every day because I used to have a more active job. And so exercise was never a part of my outside of work routine. So that's something that I needed to learn. And instead of learning it and dedicating the time to make it a habit, make it a routine, because we know the neuroscience behind that. And I highly recommend you go look it up if you think forming new habits is hard, or you want to know how to make a new habit and make it sustainable, there is a schedule you can follow. You just need to be dedicated to committing to, I think it was like 32 days. That could be horribly wrong, but there's a set amount of days. If you do a thing for that amount of days, then it becomes a habit. And if you can just stay dedicated to that, then it won't be as hard once you get over that, checkpoint. But that's enough of my personal tales. Let me know what you think. Try this mindset shift out. Just start saying, like, I'm the person who can easily get this. This can easily come to me. You can play around with the phrasing, but I found that this was more helpful than I already have it. Maybe I know that a version of me already has it and I can easily become that version. That's what helped me. It really freed up my energy. There was just a lot of weird mental freeze and mental resistance around assuming the state. But what I like to do is I still assume the state, but I visualize my future self and I tap into that energy. But for whatever reason, it was just not jiving for me to think well, I already have it. My brain was like, no, we don't. And then, we're reinforcing the lack. So let me know your thoughts. If there's anything that you'd like me to talk about in particular, please let me know, and I will catch you in the next video.